Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. As you all know, this is about the current workflow of the semantic harmonization for code lists. And I think all of you know me, but just to introduce briefly, during the past years, I've been working with Back4You for the semantic harmonization, and CodeMapper has been invented by Benus, who is also here today to present. And during past years, me, Benus, and Judith has worked on this a lot to improve it and also change the environment of that for better usability. So today we are here to discuss the features. We have 40 minutes of presentation, and then rest of the webinar is for you to discuss, provide your feedback, and see how we can improve it. I think we can start. So I give the floor to Benus, and Benus, if you want to introduce yourself and then start the presentation.
Hi, yeah, I'm Benedikt. I'm been working with on CodeMapper since quite some time, and currently I'm a consultant for Back4You, continuing again on that. And yeah, really happy to improve that. It's been a long way, but I think yeah. And today, on the first slide, yeah, welcome to this new edition of the CodeMapper webinar. We're going to focus on new features, like things that we added last year, which is mostly the maintenance of improving the maintenance of code lists, the creation and the revision. And yeah, let's just as in the next slide, as an overview, what we are going to look into today. We are mostly focusing on the semantic harmonization workflow. That was the big chunk of work last year. I mean, besides the big migration away from Excel into CodeMapper. But the semantic harmonization workflow was formalized in a big work by Sima. So we are going to see how new code lists are created, different ways to create them, how reuse them, existing ones, and do the reviews. We're going to see how metadata of code lists can be used to organize them, which is important as the number of code lists are growing a lot. There are different ways to ensure quality of the code lists. We're going to see the export of code lists and how they are accompanied by metadata that's part of the export, and how responsibilities in the workflow are modeled in the CodeMapper software. And in the end, I think we are going to have some time for questions and your feedback. For those of you who are new here, so the goal of all of that is semantic harmonization. So you start with an event definition, which is typically a text document that describes your event in your study protocol. And you want to get a code list that contains codes in different coding systems that's used to drive the extraction of the defined event from the databases. And well, there are a couple of it's pretty non-trivial this transform to get this right. We try to use Excel for that. It's hard, so you can get into various kinds of problems. For example, with long codes that are being rounded or truncated, it's difficult to track the changes and the decisions in the workflow. And of course, there's no integrated access to the coding systems that could help the mapping. So that's why we came up with CodeMapper on the next slide. And the idea of the very basic idea is on the way from the event definition to the code list, we introduce an intermediate representation, which is mostly comprised of medical concepts that like define the medical concepts, but without reference already to the actual codes in the coding systems. And all the editing and the review happens in this internal representation that we call a mapping here in CodeMapper. And only at the point when you want to do the extraction, you export the mapping into a code list. There's no further work. There's basically no further work on that necessary. And CodeMapper is a web application that you can run in your browser. And in the end of the session, we're going to give pointers how to get access if you don't already have your login. And there are a couple of objectives that we want to do in CodeMapper that should be covered now. One very important thing is the harmonization of the code list between coding systems. That means that the codes of each coding system in one code list represent the same thing. So that to ensure that if you split up the code list and for the extractions in the different databases, you actually extract the same thing, what you defined in the event definition. Then CodeMapper provides a lot of operations for editing, for changing, for adding things to the mappings. And we also support various local coding systems. And that point was mostly the part of the last webinar that we had December 24. And today we are going to focus on the management, what we have here in the management of large sets of code lists. That's what we have to deal with in Becker EU, and how and the responsibilities in this workflow. And that's mostly the workflow by Sima, so she's going to show you that.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis, for the introduction. So we all know that what was the workflow previously. We had several environments to create a code list, store them, review them. The metadata information was separate, and we had the CodeMerger app to combine all this. So the previous workflow starts from CodeMapper. We had CodeMapper to start creating a code list, but then we were exporting the output in a CSV format. We were importing that in a SharePoint, start revisioning the SharePoint environment. And technically and clinically, we were doing all these revisions in SharePoint. Then we had Mother Excel, which was an Excel file including the information, metadata information on code list properties, including the code list names, the project names that are belonging to each code list. And then we had this code list task force that any conflicts, any questions, clinically or technically, was brought to this task force to be discussed. And then at the end, when we had the code list cleaned and we had the consensus on the code list, all code lists were going to CodeMerger app, which is an app that combines all the code lists in one single CSV file. And it is also quality checking technically the structure of the codes and the structure of the folders to ensure it's compatible with what needs to be ingested in the rest of the pipeline. But now what has changed during past years is we are moving forward to combine all these steps into one single environment. So instead of having CodeMapper, then SharePoint, Excel files, and CodeMerger, now we have combined everything into one single environment. And I'm going to explain you what is the process if you want to create a code list or reuse the existing one, how to review it in CodeMapper, and how to save it, what are the versioning, and how to export it. And then the responsibilities. So let's start with the first step, which is organizing the mapping with properties. So the first step in this workflow is to start with study a specific folder or other folders. So in general, we have three types of main folders in CodeMapper. The major one is main back4u code list library, which includes all the verified code lists. It means the code list that has been reviewed by clinicians and they have been used by several studies. Then we have the My Test folder, which is a folder that you can play with all the functionality and features of the CodeMapper. And it's not a code list. I mean, it's not a folder that the code list can be reused, but it's just for new users and people who want to get familiar with the environment. Then we have study-specific folders, which is a folder specific for each study, and people can can create their code list and do the modification inside their environment. So as I explained to you, main back4u library is the main library that we keep all the events and procedure code lists inside that. You see the screenshot is from the main library, and you see that currently we have 700 code lists inside that, including the code list that has been created recently and the code list that has been imported from SharePoint to here. And I think we explained in the last webinar, but just to recall, all the code lists during the import process have undergone several quality check steps to check for the code structure and code names to ensure that they are aligned with source dictionaries. Because we had rounding issues in Excel, but now we don't have this issue anymore, and the codes have been fixed. Now, before going to the rest of the workflow, we have to know about the code list properties. So each code list has some key attributes that these attributes helps you to find the code list, to organize them, filter them, and in general, manage the code list. Whenever you open a folder, whether a study-specific folder, My Test, or any other folder, you have these features on top of each folder. In the red box, you can see we have the search option. You can search the code list by their name, abbreviation, and you have the metadata filter option, which means if you click on that, you see this tab that you can filter by project's name, filter by systems. System means the organ or system that the code list, that the event belongs to. For example, B for blood system, C for cardiac system. We can also filter by code list type. It means whether it's an outcome, covariate, or a code list in pregnancy algorithm. We have also other options to edit these properties, so we can always change the name of the code list or the projects related to them. Now that we know you have chosen your study folder and you know how to create you know the code list properties, it's time to create a name for the code list if you want to start from the scratch. So the first step is to create a name for that. So in each folder, you have an option for create. And if you click on that, you see this tab that whenever it's open, you have to fill out all these sections. So you have to assign an abbreviated name to your code list, choose a system, choose a type for your code list, and the definition of the code list, and also the project's name. And then
Sima,
yes, please, Rosanna.
May I ask a question? So when you see those, and also in the previous screen, when you see abbreviation, system, and type, is there a vocabulary for this list? So what IASI means, what COV means?
Yeah, we have an instruction. We have an instruction written and documented, which we will share with you at the end of the slides. There's a link to that instruction.
But it's not inside the system. So that
no, but it's a good.
Okay.
It's a good comment that we can put this glossary at the beginning of the CodeMapper homepage.
Thank you.
So now that you create the code list name, so now we are here. We have several ways to start a new mapping. The first step, if you want to, the first option is to start by event definition form. So when you click on OK and you started your mapping, the first option, as you can see here, is event definition form. So you can copy paste your event definition into a free text box, and then CodeMapper will tokenize those concepts as identified in the text, and will bring you a list of concepts in UMLS. It means in Unified Medical Language, and you can choose those concepts and click on Start to start your mapping. For your information, this is not for, I'm not going to go into all details of that because we prepared a video for how to create code lists more in details, and I have put the link at the end of the webinar, so all of you can see how to create code lists with an example, but this is just mostly about the workflow. So the second option you have beside the event definition form, you can see another button. Then if you click on that, it's you will see this page. So it's to start with an existing code list. So for example, there's a code list in a CSV format outside this environment, and you want to just import it here. So you have this option. You have a button here that if you click on, you can easily import your CSV file. And in the CodeMapper, it is written that what column's name and what structure of the CSV you need to be able to import it properly. We have also another option to start the mapping from the empty mapping. It means without the event definition form and without existing code list. It means we can just start from the scratch from an empty mapping, but it's usually just for testing, and it's not that useful as the other two options. But what if
Sima, just a question, about the you are talking about searching code list. Is the code list stored together with an event definition form in the system? Is it one of the metadata?
Yes, and now we have event definition forms inside that. Yes.
Okay,
it's one of the metadata.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. Now, what if you want to reuse the existing code list and you don't want to start from the scratch? So that's also possible. What you should do is to go to the folder that you are working in. For example, in this example, in my test folder. And then there's an option beside create that is copy. When you click on that, this page will show up to you. Here in this box, you can choose the folder that you want to copy from. In this case, you can copy, most of the time you need to copy from the main Back4You library, as this is the most verified repository. So you choose the folder you want to copy from, and you see the list of the code lists in that folder, and you can just tick the box of as many code lists as you want and click OK. So after that, you will see all the copied code lists in your study specific folder, and you can start making the modification without making changes to the main library. So now what's the next step after you started your mapping? Now you have your code list started. The first thing you have to check, in this example, I choose a code list of alcohol abuse. In each code list, you can see 4 main tabs: coding system, codes, concepts, and mapping. So the first step is to check the required coding system you need for your study. You can check this always in catalog, in ETL, and check with DIPS. When you go to this tab, you have 2 options to start. To choose the vocabulary of your interest from the standard vocabulary. When you click on standard, you see a list of standard vocabulary from UMLS system, or you can create a custom coding system. For example, let's say ICD-9 CMP, which are local coding system in Italy, and which is for exemption codes. And you can click on that, create a name for that, and you can see the custom coding system with the asterisk beside that to show that this is custom. More details in the video, so I will move forward. So after you choose your coding system, now it's time to start reviewing the codes and concepts. The preferred workflow is to start with the concept tab. and I will explain you why. So here you see when you go to the concept tab, you have a list of concepts in one column. Then in front of each concept, you have the codes listed. And if you hover your mouse over each code, you can see the code name. But my suggestion is that first start reviewing only the concepts without looking at the codes. And you have the ability to tag at concept level. Whenever you tag a concept, all the codes that belong to that concept will inherit the tag of that concept. For example, if I tag this concept as narrow, you can see all the codes are turned into red and they inherit the tag of narrow. You have to continue this process and this revision for all the concepts. And so this is the tag option in here. Then you can also expand your concept by navigating the narrower or broader concepts using these options. You have also the search box to search for the missing concepts and extra code that you're looking for. Then after you finish revision at the concept tab, it's time to go to the code tab. Now, when you go to the code tab, you see that all codes are tagged because you tag them on the concept level. But at the concept tab, when you were tagging, most of the time the codes are compatible. I mean, are okay with the tags. But in some exceptions, there are some exceptions that the code has different level of granularity. It might be less specific or more specific. So you have to check the tags at the code level and see if you want to modify it. As I mentioned, most of the time the tags are okay. Just you need to, if you see something needs to, that some tags needs to be changed, just click on the checkbox and you can change the tags using the tag option at the code level. And at the end, you have to know that the tags at the code level are dominant. So in the export file, you can only see the tags at the code level, not at the concept level. Yes,
Sima, is there any manner at this point to check if the same code has been tagged several times and maybe in an ambiguous manner?
Yes. When we were doing the import from SharePoint to here, we were, so you can see in the tag in here, if there are conflicting tags for the same code, it is shown as, for example, narrow plus possible. So you can see, you can find it easily.
But I was saying that, so in the process that you were discussing, you were presenting earlier, you are going concept-wise, right?
Yes.
And the same code may be classified by UMLS under two different concept IDs. And maybe even if you're not importing from SharePoint, you are doing the process anew, you may also find yourself that first you tag the concept as possible and then as narrow or vice versa. And all the codes that are below in Reddit, they in Reddit both tagging or just the most recent one? What
the
happens?
Most recent one. It takes the most
okay,
recent
so
tags.
that's even more dangerous, right? So if you have one concept which looks as a concept at the concept level like narrow to you, and then a second concept that looks as possible to you, just because it is that second in alphabetical order, it will be the tag of the second concept will prevail at the code level, correct?
Yes, but that's why we say at the end we should check at code level. Then when you check at the code level and you change the tags at codes, it doesn't matter what is at the concept level, because it will at the concept level it will automatically change based on what you did in a code level.
But Sima and Venus, in this instance, wouldn't it be more appropriate for the workflow to retain both tagging at the code level so that the reviewer is invited to review first with priority those codes that were classified under two concepts that are ambiguous, contradictory?
There's one point, the tags are, there are actually no tags on the concepts level, the tags are only stored on the code level. The fact that you can tag concepts is only an abbreviation to tag all the related codes.
I know, but the flow that Sima is describing is just giving priority to the second concept that is second in alphabetical order. So there is no reason why the second would be more important than the first. So my thinking is, if I am willing to support the code, the tagger by creating the concept level tagging, why don't you accumulate the taggings that heterogeneous concepts attribute to the same code? Because those codes are those that are really interesting. Is it clear what I'm saying? Or maybe I'm not clear.
No, you're
because
clear.
Okay.
No, I understand. So there are some codes that belong to two concepts, and one of those concepts might be, but that's why I say at the concept level, you don't need to pay attention to this kind of thing. You just go ahead regardless of
I agree.
But then at the code,
then when you go to code, you would like to retain, you know, the work that you have done at the concept level makes sense if then it is translated correctly semantically to the code level. And I think that semantically it would be wise to keep both tagging, because this is a code for attention, right? It's a code that is somehow intrinsically delicate.
Can I add something here, Sima? Rosa, you will be able to see these discrepancies even at the concept level. So you will see a black tag at the code that it is like not narrow or possible, like it has multiple ones. So you will see that at the concept, this is how I do it at least. So I look at the concept level, I see where I have my black tags, and then I go at the code level and figure out how I want to tag that code. So you do have that information. It's not that it is lost, but it depends on you, how you want to do your review. Either you review everything at the concept level and you leave this at the end, and then you go at the code level and fix the multiple tags. Or you want to do it step by step, like you fix first the first concept, you figure out whether they need to be narrow possible, like it depends on you. But they are there, so they're not removed in any way.
Okay, I had misunderstood then.
Maybe maybe we can skip some questions at the end. Sorry, because we are tight in time, and I will explain you later, or we can arrange another meeting if we need to discuss more. But thank you for your questions. Okay, we have standardized the tags. So before we had different way of tagging because it was Excel was error prone and we could tag differently. Some people were using, for example, the term delete instead of exclude, but now we have standardized them. And when you click on tag, you can choose only 4 types of tags. Just for your information to recall, narrow tags means when the code is highly specific, possible means when the code is less specific, exclude means when the code is out of scope, and ignore also clinically means when the code is out of scope, but it is used when the parent code and all its children are out of scope, and it is for programming purposes. All of these tags are exported, but programmers in the pipeline remove the ignore tag because to reduce the size of the code list. And this is all documented in the instruction. We also have the option for commenting at both concept and code level. So in front of each concept or code, there's a bubble speech that if you click on that, you will see this tab and you can put your comment. This is really important for traceability and discussion in the task force. Well, I think one thing I forgot to explain you is that there is an option also in the concept tab for importing code lists. So sometimes, for example, there is an update from, let's say, this mostly happens in CPRD dictionaries. There's an update of the codes that it is still not in CodeMapper because of the versioning, but CPRD provide you a list of those codes in a CSV format, and you can easily, just by one click, append it to the existing code list if the structure of that CSV is properly Now, next slide is after you check your concept and code level tags and you finish your clinical review, now it's time to check the mapping tab. So the last tab in inside each code list is mapping tab. In this tab, you can see the configurations and you have to check it. Whenever you click on configuration, you have two options. One option is a checkbox that whenever you click on that, you can have automatically have control over all the descendant code of the concepts and codes you have. So this is suggested whenever the code list is so huge and you can't ensure that you have included all the descendants. So to make sure you are comprehensive, by checking that box, you will automatically include all the descendants and the descendants will automatically take the tag of their parents' codes. There is another option also in the configuration tab that the name is remap. Benus will explain you more in details, but remap in general means when you click on it, automatically, if there is an update of the dictionary in UMLS, the dictionary itself will automatically be updated, but remember that we keep track of the expired codes and we are not losing a trace of them. We just, if the new code is introduced to dictionary, it will be add up to the mapping. Then the next tab is metadata. It means, you know, that we had Mother Excel of including all the metadata information. Now we have integrated into CodeMapper. So by checking the metadata, you can check the code list properties and project name, and there's an option for edit if you want to edit it. We have event definition form template here. So you can append your event definition form to the code list. And we are in the process of integrating event definition form because we have it in Zenodo, Brighton collaboration, and we have them scattered. But now we are in the process of transiting them to here as kind of metadata. And I also want to ask everyone, if you are creating a new code list, it's important to have an event definition form for that. Then we have versioning. All versions of a code list can be seen in the version tab, and they are all downloadable with timestamps and with name of the authors and with summary of the changes in each version. And the last tab is creation. It means the codes, concept, or the definition used to start the mapping. It might be the same as the event definition form, but sometimes people use a more compact definition to start the mapping. Only for they start with synonyms and lay terms and some specific codes. We have also metadata information on the coding system versions used inside each code list, that it is not in the mapping tab. Actually, it is when you click on download to download the code list. One option is to download the metadata information of that code list, which includes the coding system versions. Then after you check your mapping, it's time to save your code, your changes, and to save that inside each code list, you see an icon on the right top. If you click on that, you see that you have to give a summary of the what changes you made, and you click on save. So after you saved, it's going to be another version of your code list, as you can see in here in the mapping tab, in the versions. All the versions here, we have 8 versions for this code list. All versions are downloadable with the name of the author, timestamp, and the summary of the changes. Then after you save the version, now it's time for the second clinical reviewer to review again, because it's always good to have 2 eyes on this code list as they are very important. So the second clinical reviewer should do these steps again. I mean, they have to check again the coding system required to ensure they are complete. They have to check the tags at concept and code level, and check the metadata information. And one thing is that if you're creating a new code list, even whether in your study specific folder or any other folder, you have to inform the code list coordinator, who is me. So I can technically check the structure, and also I can I can, after I checked and verified, I can add it to the main VAC for your library for the reuse in other studies. Now, Benus will present you about non-UMLS vocabularies and the remap option.
Yeah, a short digression on the coding systems that are available in CodeMapper. The basis for CodeMapper is the UMLS, which we mentioned a couple of times, the Unified Medical Language System, which is a meta thesaurus of almost 200 coding systems. And the idea of that meta thesaurus is that codes of different coding systems that represent the same thing are assigned to one common concept in the UMLS. And you see here, for example, cough in orange is the CUI in the UMLS, and the different codes from various coding systems that mean the same thing are assigned to that. That's the basis for harmonization of code lists between coding systems in CodeMapper, and also to find out if you have one code, which other relevant codes exist in other coding systems. But UMLS is actually bit limited on the coding systems that are used in Europe, so we started working on the integration of other coding systems with it. So there are different ways to go beyond UMLS. One is that you can customize within a mapping an existing coding system by just disabling codes or adding custom codes that you know that are actually used in your database. We, on the other side, work on integrating complete coding systems into the system, into CodeMapper. The idea is that we did that, for example, for the Danish ICD-10, for Medcode ID, and for an up-to-date version of ICD-10. And the idea is that we create mappings from these new coding systems into coding systems that are in the UMLS, and that way we can map them also into the system of UMLS concepts, these orange circles. And as Sima mentioned, you can also, while working on a map, while working in CodeMapper, you can also create custom coding systems. That's, for example, useful for free text queries, or yeah, that's how we use it right now. On the next slide, it now happens that coding systems change. For example, the UMLS has 2 releases per year, which pull in new versions of the coding systems, and we also integrate updates of the coding systems we integrated. And in each release, there may be codes added and removed, and the remap operation that Sima already mentioned, the purpose is that the mappings are migrated from the previous UMLS version on coding system versions to the new ones. That means that first, what happens is that just the concepts are again mapped to or assigned to the codes in the new release. That way, we ensure that the new codes are included. And at the same time, the codes that are removed from in a release are retained as custom codes to ensure that all codes are actually, that all the removed codes actually accumulate in your mapping over the release cycles. And on the final, also Sima already mentioned most of interesting things about how code lists are can be used in code lists. They can be, I mean, the main purpose is the export, of course, and it goes together. The code list goes together with a CSV file that contains the metadata that describes the versions of the coding systems and the mapping and the UMLS that is being used to track back what actually is included in the code list. The code list can also be imported in various ways to start new mappings or to pull in like whole batches of codes into an existing code list. And in both cases, the format is very similar. It's a text-based CSV format. There are common column names covering the codes and coding systems and concepts. For the import, also there are dedicated columns to import the review. For example, if you're importing from Excel and did the review in Excel before. And one final note is that right now we still need some post-processing of the exported code list to harmonize that format with the pipeline requirements that are used for the extraction. But we are working to formalize that and integrate that step into CodeMapper as well. Sima?
Yeah, thank you so much, Venus. We are on the last slides, so I want to explain to you the responsibilities and governance structure. So each folder, inside each folder, we have three main roles: reviewers, who can just review the codes and put comments, and they can also download the code lists, but they cannot make modifications on the tag; editors, who can make the modifications; and owners, who can also, in addition to modification, they can create code lists and delete code lists. So now that we are familiar with the whole workflow, let's see where to start. If you don't have a CodeMapper account, or you don't have a study-specific folder, you can email the CodeMapper help desk, so we can provide you with the specific accounts and roles and specific folders. If you are new to the environment, it's better to start with the My Test folder. So everyone in My Test folder are the owners. They can play with any functionalities. And in the study-specific workspace, again, all study members are owners, so they can create code lists, they can import code lists and review there. But it's important to know that after you finish the work, you have to inform me as the code list coordinator, so I can check the code list and to see if there is no overlap between the names you choose for your new code list in compared to the code list we have in main repository. And also, if everything was okay, I can import the new code list created in your study to the main repository for the reuse in other studies. So this submission request, I mean, just to inform me that the new code list was created, for now is through emails, but we would like to make this as a kind of function in CodeMapper to be able to submit a request by a click. And then in main Back4You library, most of you are not the owner. It means you are mostly reviewers or editors. If you are a reviewer, it might be that you are a deep member or you are not a code list task force member, so you have just only the ability to review the codes and provide your feedback, but you can't make changes. If you are an editor, it is most likely that you are an active member of a code list task force who is familiar more in details with the workflow, and you can make changes. But please remember that you cannot individually go inside the code list and make changes. It should always be discussed with a code list coordinator or code list task force because those code lists are used in many studies, and yeah, any changes to them should be discussed with all the studies who are using that. Because we are short in time, I skipped this slide, but this is just to show you that CodeMapper is following the FAIR principles. Everything in that is findable, accessible, interoperable, because we have different terminology. The export file is in CSV and reusable because and flexible also because of the configuration and study-specific folders we have. Now, at the end, to contribute and collaborate with all the task forces and members, we have open source GitHub, which you always can open a discussion from there, provide your feedbacks, and if you found any issue, you can report it to us so we go through it as soon as possible. We have an email here for CodeMapper help desk for creation of an account or creation of the folders, and we have a video here more in details on how to create code lists. And also in CodeMapper, if you hover your mouse over some function, it gives you a brief explanation on how to work with each function. And at the end, the objectives for next year are that we want to add further non-UMLS vocabularies like Spanish, French version of the ICDs, CPRD, other versions. Now we have the ability to handle different versions of the same dictionary, but unfortunately not under the same name. But this is something to be improved in this year. We want to integrate medication code lists. So for now, only events and procedure code lists are inside the CodeMapper. Medication are still in SharePoint, but we intend to import them. We have the EDF template, but it's pending to import all the definitions to the related code list. The important thing is that although we can output the full code list by CodeMapper, but the output needs to go through our script. Still, it needs to be refined in our script to ensure that the coding system names are harmonized, especially local coding systems. And there are some things that needs to be checked in terms of a structure of the code list to be compatible with what we need in pipeline. We try to get rid of this our script, and with help of Viola, as she was always helping us in all these technical parts. And I think we are too ambitious, but we are working on generative AI proposals to support the tagging process, and at the end, kind of connection between CodeMapper and the flow phenotype library, which are under development. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm waiting for your questions and comments. But before opening the floor, I want to thank everyone, especially the Code List Task Force members, for providing their clinical view always, and for revising the Code List deeps, especially CPRD, Danish Registry, and all others who by providing their local vocabularies and revision. And a special thanks to Judith and Viola for always their methodological and all clinical input they provide. Yes, please go ahead if you have any questions. Rosa, please, yes.
Thank you very much, Sima. That was and Benus. This was really very, very nice. Just from the last slide, I understand that I had misunderstood this, that medicines are still not in CodeMapper now. Oh, yes.
No, they are not. Unfortunately, they are not.
They are
there
not.
Yet.
Okay. That's there are different informations circulating, so that's good to know. So what is currently the status now? So for current studies, how is it that medication code lists are how do you recommend to handle them?
Well, just like fortunately, it's easier than events definition form, events code list, because the structure is simpler. There are only 3 main columns, but because we have to structure it differently from the output that we currently have, then we should work on that. As soon as we work on that, I think the import process is easy because only ATC and prot code ID needs to be imported. Just like what Benus did for events, he's checking the ATC against the source dictionary of the ATC. And I don't know about the prot code, if we need to provide the source dictionary to check it against it. Benus knows better than me, but we need to first work on the structure of that to be able to adapt it.
But now, what do you recommend for studies that we are doing now? What do you recommend to do for those code lists?
Still, we are using the code merger app designed by Viola because the medication code lists are still in SharePoint. So to make the full code list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very, very useful.
Yeah. And regarding your comment, Rosa, on conflicting tags, maybe we can discuss it later, but I understood your point and it's very valid point. So you want to prioritize the tags that are conflicting across concepts. And I have to see, we have many things in the next year goals, but this is very important. Yes, Daniel, please.
Yeah, hi, Sima and everybody. I mean, this is fantastic work, and thank you everybody who is involved here. I just want to clarify that the CodeMapper app, this is a UMCU tool still. So this is not something that, just not to raise wrong expectations now with the audience here. This is something that maybe a study that is not run by UMCU needs to figure out how to come up with the medication code list now. I mean, historically, we were just using the ATC codes and the code lists available. And at the moment, still there is not a standardized tool that can be used by WAC4U. So PIs and studies are still left on their own to create the medication code lists. Also, the merging of the medcode IDs from CPRD is still problematic, I would say. So because there is huge effort needed from DSRU people actually to provide these code lists. But to add the medication codes to the CodeMapper infrastructure, this is in planning, but it's just not yet available. So just to be very clear about that. And then the second comment I would like to make is, and where I might want to have a little bit of input here now from people is, I mean, we were designing and developing now this tool, and also the implementation came very far now with the change from the Excel sheets to the whole environment with the tagging and so on. We are now establishing all the materials and manuals that people can use it, of course, also because the CodeMapper is meant to be a WAC4U tool that looks on first sight now, of course, very complicated because of the new features that are implemented. But in the end, I think CodeMapper should be used by or enabled to be used by the members themselves as a tool that they can use in their studies. So, and I hope that PIs and those people responsible in the end for the main code list are using the tool and then also give feedback and are able to use the tool in the long run. So this is the vision that we have. Maybe people can comment on that a bit, that we get a feedback.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I think just one thing that is still a question for me, and I would like to hear from others, is that now people are using this study-specific folder, which is giving them flexibility to work on their own and create code lists based on their objectives. But what if we are diverging from the same definition? So I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding that a same code list, which is in a main repository and has the same definition across all the study, a study comes and wants to use that code list and they import it in their, I mean, they copy it in their study-specific folder, start expanding that and even correcting some mistakes if it was in the main library and without informing us. So they are making some efforts, but these efforts is not reusable in other studies. And I know that from PI's feedback, I understood that this should be a WAC4U thing to compare study-specific code lists to the main repository and see why some code lists with the same meaning are diverging. Is it because of the improvement or because they have a different objectives? So it's still a bit confusing for me. Yes, Rosa.
This is, I understand this, but I just want to comment on the last sentence in the slide about domains. So something that we have realized, and now I'm speaking as catalog task force, is that there are some coding systems that are not UMLS where that domain is ambiguous. Typically, procedures or diagnosis cannot be distinguished, or vaccines and medications cannot be distinguished. And this is the case respectively of MedCode ID and Proc Code ID. And we are now in the catalog task force going towards the recommendation to, which is actually implicit in the conception common data model. Well, it's explicit for events and procedures. If you have a coding system that does not distinguish, just send everything to events. And if it's medication, if the coding system does not distinguish vaccines from medicines, put everything in medicines. It means that we may need to handle the possibility that some concepts are heterogeneous, or at least distinguish the domain at the concept level from the place where the code is stored in the conceptual common data model. Since we don't want the ETL to be semantic, so we introduce the semantic only after ETL, right? Using the code lists. But then there will be some code list that needs to be used both in vaccines and in medicines, for example, because some codes will end up in medicine. So there is this small nuance, and let's keep aligned between CodeMapper and the catalog in such a way that we don't create divergency in these two levels.
Thank you so much, Rosa. This is also very important. So I don't know if you have any plans for that. Should we set separate meeting for this kind of alignment between CodeMapper and catalog?
Maybe we could have like a monthly meeting or a bi-monthly meeting.
Yeah.
When things, yeah, that's a good idea, because the same is for the coding system, that sometimes we don't understand your evolution. So yes, that's a good idea. Or maybe we just join your meetings every now and then.
Thank you, Rosa. I will follow up on this. This is important for us to improve CodeMapper. Yeah.
And for us too.
I think that would be perfect to be handled in the catalog task force, no? I mean, from the CodeMapper task force, either you, Rosa, me, or so we could join from time to time, and then we could discuss there on the line. I think that's very much needed.
Thank you. Yes, Judith.
Yes. Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you for the presentation. Seeing how CodeMapper is progressing, thanks of you all, it's fantastic, because it's a tool with a great power. And yeah, just in line with what you were commenting, now that in some projects there's a lot of work being done in regards to understanding the product's information, product dictionaries and all of that, this would be a great add-in for CodeMapper potentially. No, because the Ars team, you, Rosa, together with Giuseppe, are working a lot on that, and I think that we could try to see if this could also fit and nourish CodeMapper a bit more for reusability and all of that. Just it's a perspective, not a specific proposal, but to bear that in mind. So not only for meds, but for products. Yeah,
I think this is on our radar, and it is part of the development plans. It's just like that we prioritize now the features that have been presented now. But I think, of course, yes, I mean, together with the procedures, the products, everything should be at some point be part of CodeMapper, and also of the extension of the flow, no, of the when you want to create an algorithm and have an algorithm library of phenotypes, and you want to create phenotypes that are consisting out of disease codes, medication codes, and others, you will need to have those mapped somewhere. So yeah, this is in the bigger picture, and I can only agree. It's just that in the code list at the moment. We have 4 hands and a few more that help very much. So that's what we have at the moment.
It's a
yes.
5 to 10 year plan. So
Well, I don't hope 10 years, but maybe next year, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Judith. Yes, Giuseppe.
Yes. First of all, congratulations. This is really great job, good improvement, really huge job. I was just wondering, is there any let me open the is there any reason why drugs are not there? I know that ATC is that UMLS contains also ATC, RxNorm, and RxNorm also linked, if I'm not wrong, to Protocode ID. So I was just wondering
Thanks,
whether there
Giuseppe.
is a specific reason for that.
Yeah, you're completely right. ATC is part of UMLS, and we have the ATC in CodeMapper. The thing is that if we can create a code list for drugs in CodeMapper, but when we export it, the structure is different from what we need in pipeline. So that's why we need to first build up the infrastructure for the structure of the medication code lists. It is
Okay.
that's the only reason.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. If there is no more comments, I think we can close the webinar. Thanks, everyone, once more, especially Daniel, for managing all this. And looking forward to your feedbacks.